forces in Afghanistan for a while. We want to transition to the Afghan security forces as rapidly as we can. That'll all be based on the conditions on the ground at the time.
Okay, so let's look at the Marja operation. The Marja operation was supposed to be the first operation which was going to test America's counter-insurgency strategy, seize, hold, transfer. Marja failed.
Actually, in my discussions with commanders that are there, commanders on the ground, is that we've made progress in Marja, and specifically, it was a Taliban stronghold for the last several years. They were driven out. There are things happening there, markets open, schools open, some governance in place, not as much as we would have liked or as rapidly as we have liked, but there actually has been steady, slow progress in Marja. It's a very challenging undertaking.
80,000 population, only 3 bazaars are open. The Taliban have come back, melted back into the crowd. This is what your media reports, and American press says that.
Actually speaking from the standpoint of those who were there actually in the fight, in the counterinsurgency in Marja, and the intimidation at night certainly isn't all gone. The night letters still are arriving, but the feedback I get week to week is there is gradual improvement there. And actually I go to Afghanistan tomorrow on this trip, and I'll hear first.
Let's move to Kandahar. The Kandahar operation was to take place. It seems now that it's being delayed, and so number one, what are we expecting? When do you undertake that operation? And does the postponement tell us that you're finding it increasingly difficult to actually undertake an operation?
We still don't have all the forces there that the President approved last year. Those forces actually will arrive in the very near future, and they're a necessary part of the operation for Kandahar. We've been actually conducting shaping operations in and around Kandahar for the last several weeks. There have been decisions by the commanders there to delay certain parts of the operation tied to the conditions that they see, and that's what commanders on the ground get paid to do, and that's exactly what they're doing. I think we will have a very good understanding by the end of the year where we are overall, specifically in Afghanistan, tied to our operations in Helmand and in Kandahar.
By different accounts, and again Western accounts, the Taliban hold different levels of strength, but they hold around 70% of the territory. You've been quoted, or was it Secretary of Defense Gates saying that until we can reverse the momentum of the Taliban, we will not enter into a dialogue. How does this position sit with the policy of reintegration and reconciliation?
Well, President Karzai signed a directive recently with respect to authorizing the policy of both reconciliation and reintegration. And the reintegration, which are the lower level fighters, if you will, and that is actually started, in small numbers, but it is started. With respect to reconciliation, I think Secretary Gates has said, I have said, and others, that we need to do that. We need to execute that from a position of strength, and we're not there yet, from my perspective.
Yeah, but that's your position. But going back to President Karzai, he's on record saying that he's willing to talk to Taliban, and he's not ruling out Mullah Omar. He's also engaged indirectly with the Haqqani network, but your position is very different to that. So the American vision of reintegration and reconciliation doesn't really match with the position of President Karzai.
Actually, I separate, they're both important. I separate the reintegration and reconciliation piece, and the reintegration is actually very specifically supported by everybody. This is an Afghan-led process in reconciliation. President Karzai and the United States see it the same way from that perspective. We believe we need to be in a position of strength to successfully reconcile, and that we're not there yet. doesn't mean that President Karzai or others might be taking initiative. It's his initiative to take. He's leading this. That said, I don't think we can succeed in reconciliation until we're in a much stronger position than we're in right now.
So, Admiral, what gives you the hope that what you haven't been able to achieve in all these years, and given where we are today in terms of the Taliban certainly not being in a reverse mode, and plus your NATO partners are wanting to exit, given the situation that is there, many of your partners, and the ground situation certainly doesn't seem to favor a momentum which is going to be reversing the Taliban advance. What gives you the hope?
The goal is to reverse the momentum this year. This is a very difficult year, we know that, but that's been the goal and that's still the goal. Secondly, I've been in NATO a long time. I've never seen as many countries aligned on the strategy, providing the resources and the focus. And as long as we've been in Afghanistan, and I recognize it's our 9th year of war specifically for the United States, this is the first year, we're in the first year of having the strategy right and adequately resourcing that strategy. So I recognize it's been a long time, but we haven't supported it from a resource standpoint, not just in the United States, but other countries. We're doing that now. So from my point of view, we have a great opportunity to turn this thing around, and we haven't had that opportunity before, despite the amount of time that we've been there.
But Admiral, you may have more resources, but again, I mean, the Canadians are leaving, the Dutch have left, others are not contributing as much as they would have wanted, as much as perhaps you and others would have wanted the contribution to be. Plus, I was talking to your, with about 4 other people, talking to your counterpart, the British Sir Jockstone, and he was very clear that it's time to really get into a political dialogue, and he didn't rule out engagement with Mullah Omar, etc. You and the British obviously have a different position on that as well. You're talking about reversal and then dialogue, and they're not talking about reversal. And so even on that issue, there's a difference between 2 key NATO partners. I still, I mean, I can understand that this is a position as a person who's leading your military you must take, but when we look at the situation on the ground, 105 casualties in June, this is the largest ever since NATO troops came into Afghanistan. There seems to be no reason to be hopeful.
We had every expectation this would be a very difficult year because of the additional resources and because, quite frankly, the strength of the insurgency. And I've tried to be quite clear about that. Everyone is tragic, but there is I think, a realistic expectation of the degree of difficulty. With respect to Sir Jock, I've had many conversations with him over the last couple of years, and he's very supportive of the strategy. He knows he's very focused on reversing the momentum, and certainly at the time and place there will be discussions on how to reconcile. He and I, in our conversations, agree that we need to do that from a position of strength, and we're not there yet. So I think sometimes I worry about differences which get created which really aren't there, and certainly in my discussions with him and with the British in general, we're in the same place.
नाज़रीन, इस पॉइंट पे हम एक ब्रेक लेते हैं, ब्रेक के बाद फिर आपकी खिदमत में हाजिर होते हैं.